Yo, it's that time. Get ready to unwind with Jillian on the mic. The best you'll find. Pop that cork. Let's start to chat on the Polywine Podcast, where it's all that. Join the crew as we dive into the scene.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on Polywine, where we like to take a deep dive into stories pulled from the media and have a fun time while breaking it down. I'm Jillian, and let's get into it. Well, Happy New Year, everyone. I hope you had a wonderful time bringing in the new year, or just a nice, relaxing time bringing in the new year. But as we said goodbye to 2025, and we make our best wishes for 2026, 2026 is turning out to be quite a year so far. But let's go to the New Year's celebrations. It was really nice to watch it from one side of the globe to the next, starting with New Zealand. The fireworks display and show, I should say, because it was quite a show, quite the visual effect in Sydney. Wow, over the bridge right there in Sydney, the fireworks, it was spectacular. It really was. You had the fireworks, it was to music, there was lasers, a little discotheque in there. It was like 12 and a half, 13 minutes straight. So, wow, what a sight to see. And it was nice. And in the music, they about unity, we are one. And it was nice to have a show. It's for people just to have a moment to kind of enjoy something, because Australia, you've really gone through with the tragedy that happened there on Bondi Beach just several weeks ago. Our hearts are with you, but wow, you really stepped it up in the shade. I have to say, it was probably one of the best fireworks, if not the best fireworks one I saw. Dubai, you had a nice show as well. We always watch the New York City ball drop. We had two ball drops. We had the new design ball that fell right at midnight, and then we had the other ball drop to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the U.S. So that was nice, but I gotta tell you, I found the New York City event a little lackluster. My opinion. When you see the fireworks in Sydney, I mean, that was something. And then you had Dubai. You know, it was nice to see the ball drop. You had the confetti everywhere. Sure, beautiful. It looked freezing, but that was pretty. But then to see the fireworks show in the New York Harbor, you know, it was one here, one there. It was nice, but it just seemed, it fell short compared to some of the other cities that celebrated. I'm telling you, Sydney, that it was great. Vegas, that was fun. You were right in front of the Bellagio fountains. That was nice. I thought it was fun that you had Pitbull performing there. I thought it was fun. Chicago, it was nice to have you there this year. Nice celebration all the way through, all the way to California. Very nice, very nice. So happy 2026, everyone. Now let's work our way over to Switzerland. We want to extend our deepest heartfelt condolences to you with that nightclub fire that happened, that claimed so many young lives and also injured many, and in the surrounding countries that had so many people there. It was a ski town and just awful. There were so many countries around that were affected. It's just terrible. It's heartbreaking. So we are thinking of you there. I mean, it looks such like a beautiful, picturesque, perfect winter village, and to have this tragedy, it's to the people there, it must completely rock your world. So I'm just so sorry. Just a terrible thing. And you know, I got to tell you, when I was going to talk about politics today, I was going to talk mostly about the boat strikes off the coast of Venezuela. We know Congress attorneys are questioning the legalities of these strikes. Can we actually do it? Despite what some of the administration may say, there's questions there. Well, just like you and the rest of the world, woke up this morning, yes, before I could even get my second swig of coffee down, find out that the U.S. had a strong and quite swift military action in Venezuela throughout the night. And they captured Maduro and whisked him off, and they're going to take him to the U.S. and try him for his crimes. And then Trump comes on and makes his speech. Okay, we wait a while, and understandably so, it must be a very, very chaotic morning within his team. Sure. So then they announced they're going to speak. They said 11 o'clock. It was running late. I'm sure things were quite chaotic with everything going on with the team. Trump gets up, starts speaking, and they captured Maduro, and they're bringing him here, and they're going to try him. So this is what he said. And he's explaining it, praising the military. It sounded like it went flawlessly. So for such a large military action, with so many people involved and multiple agencies, even on a small scale plan, so many things can go wrong. So something on this massive scale, for it to go swiftly, so effectively, and, you know, mission accomplished on that scale, because he was captured and taken away. Okay, military, job well done. I have so many questions. My first thought is, can we do that? Can we do that? And while Trump is speaking and praising, then of course some other people speak. You have Hegseth speak, and some other people, the people in the military speak, and stuff like that. Then of course they open the panel for questions by the journalists, and of course spinning all over the place with questions. Okay, let's go through some of the top ones. What is happening now? Who's in charge of Venezuela? Great question. That's what we all want to know. What happens now? What's the plan? Who's in charge? Well, Trump says, well, the U.S. is going to run it. And everyone's like, what? Question? You just see all the hands like fly up in the room. And you're like, what? You know, as a viewer, and I'm sure everybody's like, what? Hold on. Can you imagine members of Congress going, what? And then, you know, I'm summarizing here. And then, you know, Trump was saying, you know, look, we've been communicating with people, and Rubio has been going to be working through some of this transition, and the U.S. is going to be we're going to be running it until a proper team can take over for transition. This is what they were saying. And he was like, Rubio is going to work with the vice president of Venezuela in this time. And we're like, okay. Then, but during the press conference, he was just talking about the oil. So what's the plan? So it sounds like we're going to have boots on the ground now. And I got to tell you, it doesn't really sound like there's a lot of plan about, you know, help run Venezuela. And I'm using run Venezuela because that was the phrase that was, we're going to run Venezuela. What are we going to do for that process of running that country during this transition? What does that look like? What is that going to cost? How are the people going to feel? Because I have to tell you, in my head, I'm thinking, historically, when the U.S. goes into another country and tries to take over, that usually does not go over very well for the U.S. So you might want to rethink that. I think there might be a better plan and option here. What about plan B? So that's what I'm thinking. And can we do this? Is this legal? And I feel like we're breaking some international law here. I don't know. Not an attorney. I'm not sure, but it feels like there might be some major violation here. And according to some attorneys that I was listening to on different news outlets, they're saying, well, these are violations against the UN Charter. Well, we're going to go in and we're going to take the oil and we're going to make money off it. I'm like, what? Can we do that? Like, I was flabbergasted watching that. I'm like, I have so many questions, and you have all the journalists trying to get in and ask a question. There's everybody spiraling. And so one journalist was saying, look, if your whole justification for capturing him is because he's a narco-terrorist, how do you justify pardoning a convicted narco-terrorist from Honduras? So that was just a couple weeks ago. Let's not forget about that. And why did Congress, this was another journalist, why did Congress not know anything about this? And why did it not go through the proper approval and basically Trump's response is, well, they can't be trusted, they leak it. And I'm thinking to myself, are we forgetting Signalgate? Like, that wasn't that long ago. So my mind was bouncing around all over the place. The inside of my skull felt like a ping pong machine. I was just like, I have so many questions, and I'm sure there are so many constitutional lawyers and constitutional law students that are like, hold on, they're just flipping through their violations. Congress is like, they're just in a state of shock because how are we going to pay for this? And Trump said, we're going to go in and we're going to take the oil and we're going to make money off it. We're going to make a lot of money off of it and it's going to pay for everything. And I'm like, well, how's that going to go over? Okay, so we're all trying to get through this, okay? And I'm talking about the journalists. They're asking their questions. The American people, we're trying to process it. Congress? Hello. Congress is watching the news just like the rest of us. And I'm sure they were probably screaming at the TV, throwing stuff at the TV. Some were probably clapping and cheering. Who knows? But I'm sure there was a wide array of reaction. No question there. So we go through that news conference. That settles. And everybody's having the discussion on the news. They're having their analysts, their experts come in, put their inputs in. Then we go to a news conference of the vice president of Venezuela, Rodriguez. She's up there with her administration of what's left. By the way, all Maduro's people, all pitted by Maduro, they're still there. There's that. And she gets up there and said, the president of Venezuela, Maduro, was kidnapped today. We demand his immediate return, and our international friends take note, and I hope you take action. And I was like, oh. So first of all, I was like, oh, Marco Rubio, are you watching this? Are you like, what is his reaction like? He was just like, because just 2 hours before that, President Trump was up there saying that Marco Rubio was going to work with the VP of Venezuela to work during this transition, and she's okay with it. And he then followed that up saying, well, she doesn't really have a choice. But that's what he said. And then 2 hours to be like, no, in defiance and basically contradicting everything that he just said, like, nope, and we are not going to stand for this. So what happens now? And Trump did mention a second wave, and that's scary. And there's so many questions. We don't really have a plan. What is it? How long is it going to take? Much is it going to cost? I mean, what's going to happen when we get there? Like I said, I was just going to talk about the boat strikes, and then I was going to tie that in about how, when journalists are asking these questions, how we sometimes get a wishy-washy answer and it makes us suspicious, and what is more behind it? What are we missing? What do we not know? And over the holiday weekend, I was watching the documentary on Netflix called Cover Up. And it's about the journalist and very well-respected journalist, Seymour Hersh. And he has broke some pretty major stories on political cover-up, financial cover-up, going back to Vietnam, some of the atrocities in the Iraq War, you name it. And the importance of the press. And the press gets it quite harshly from this administration, and I have a problem with it. And there is so much constantly unfolding in the news. We need well-respected professional journalists to do their job, because we need to know what's going on. We need to get an understanding, a bigger picture, especially of military and political moves like this. Like this is massive. And I keep thinking, okay, great. I'm so glad that this was executed well. But what if something would have gone wrong and there would have been loss of life? And we still don't even know if there are any casualties on the ground. in Venezuela. So we still have so many unanswered questions, but we're all just trying to process everything what happens. And I have to tell you, I'm just really kind of curious to hear international perspective on this. What are your views about this? Because I trust me, I'm just as shocked. Look, I think we all knew that something was happening. But for it to happen this quickly in the middle of the night, I was thinking to myself while I was watching the news this morning, what changed? Why is there such an immediate action? Why did we not go through the proper process? It sounded like this whole action had been planned for a while, but what prompted us to go now? Why now is, I guess, the question. These are the questions we have, and this is why we need our journalists. We need to get to the real story. We need to get to the root of it. And I get nervous because a lot of times when they ask the big questions, we get very general answers, or quite frankly, just a combative response, which doesn't help. Because when I was watching that documentary, The Cover Up, thank God for journalists like this. And then I was thinking about, well, what about the Pentagon Papers? Thank God for journalists and the press. What about the Panama Papers? Those came out not that long ago. What about that? Then I was thinking about the whole Watergate scandal with Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein. And okay, what about right now? The Epstein files. What about, it was a journalist that brought that to the light. Let's not forget Julie Brown in Florida. Yes, she was the one that brought this story to light for the victims. They need some justice. So we need our journalists. We need to respect them. It's our checks and balances within the system. They break the stories. They do the hard work for the investigation. It's go time, guys. I mean, you thought that last year, 2025, was just, woo, fast flowing. 2026, we are only a few days in, and oh my, we're in another country now. And what about Ukraine? Just the other day with Ukraine, you said, okay, possible boots on the ground after for a very long time, no boots on the ground, no boots on the ground. Well, maybe. Okay, we are spread around all over the world. Our National Guards in many cities. Where are we getting all these people? How are you going to pay for it? I'm thinking of the plan, the logistics. So many questions. So please, journalists, we support you. We support you. Moving over to the world of entertainment. I was just talking about how I was watching that documentary on Netflix, The Cover Up. It was good. I like that kind of stuff. I enjoyed watching it, but I also enjoy somebody who has a true passion and drive for their work and want to get it right. So I appreciate that. And I enjoyed watching the documentary and going back through history. And it reminds us of some of our really dark times and going into what we're going into today in Venezuela. I think it's important that we don't forget our past. We do not forget our history. Right. We don't want to repeat. So I just thought it was really interesting. I thought it was so important to what's happening now, how there's things that's not coming out in the news. And then today, what will come out in the next, what's going to come out in the next few hours, what's going to come out in the next few days, weeks. But after the vice president of Venezuela spoke, what are the talks going on behind the scenes in the White House? I don't think that was the response that they were looking for or expecting there. But anyway, and I was just talking about Cover Up on Netflix. I was watching the new series on Peacock called The Copenhagen Test with Simu Liu. And what did you think? I think it's kind of can be a little closely related to what's happening now. And even though it's a fictional story, it's where Simu Liu is an operative for a spy agency, an undercover spy agency, and there's a mole, and they're trying to figure out if he's the spy, and they create this kind of, make-believe world around him. This story was okay, but it was full-on action. So it was definitely entertaining, and I do like a spy thriller, so I was definitely entertained. So go over to Peacock, watch it. But I'm telling you, there was a lot of action and through the whole series. So I'm kind of curious if Peacock is going to pick that up for a second season. So we'll see. It just started to air. So we'll see what the numbers come out on that one. But it was definitely entertaining and a lot of action. That guy, I can't even imagine how much training he did for this series, but he's probably so well trained from all the Marvel movies and other action movies he's been. And usually when we're talking about Peacock, we're usually talking about, okay, one of the housewives and the very large franchise, or Traitors, which the new season's coming back next week. So excited. The trailers have been dropping recently, so the cast looks good. But we usually talk about the Real Housewives. Well, did you see on Netflix the Real Housewife franchise's new competition? Yes, they released their new show, Members Only, Palm Beach, and it's kind of like the Real Housewives. You follow a group of women that are Palm Beach socialites and their day in a life of. And a lot of people ask me, "Gonna watch it? Do you watch it?" I did, and it was okay. Entertaining moments, dramatic women. It was a bit much. Did kind of like it. I think it's going to grow on me a little bit more. I kind of binged watched it, so it was a lot all at once. You heard a lot about Mar-Lago, which I understand. That's one of the major country clubs in the area. There are several, although Michael Jordan one looks really, really nice. But you hear a lot about the president and Mar-Lago and how they're always trying to work their way in there. So I'm like, I think I can understand where you lie politically. But to me, there wasn't a lot of story. And I'm not saying that the Real Housewives franchise, I'm not saying there's a lot of storyline each season. But each character, or person, I should say, not character, but person does come into the season on the Housewives with a story. I didn't really get individual stories other than Romina, who's also now a singer and all over the place. She's got an interesting background. And I kind of felt bad for her a lot in the show. I think that the other women, what was it, one? Gail? Oh my God. Let's give that one a minute to take in. She's a lot. And yeah, some of the reviews about it, funny, mixed. Some love it, some hate it. Most of the comments was, it's so awful. Oh my God, I love it. So there's that. It's a guilty pleasure. But yeah, it should be interesting to see how that compares to the Real Housewife franchise. And because some of the franchises are struggling and the Real Housewives. So we'll see how that compares to it. But speaking of the Real Housewives, did you see the TLC documentary on Mary Cosby, the Real Housewife from Salt Lake City? Did you see it? I know you did. You didn't disappoint. I know you did. I did. Absolutely. Did I watch it at midnight when it came on? You know I did. I absolutely did. And, Mary, I do not know if they've already filmed the reunion. I would think that they probably did. I got to be honest, I'm not 100%. But this has got to come up. This documentary had to be in the works for quite some time. So I'm sure they've caught wind of it. And I'm sure that Andy would definitely ask questions about this documentary at the reunion. Because it's been some time, because in this documentary, they go back to the past reunions. The one, how season one, how Mary was taking the questions and how they brought up the cult stuff and how Whitney brought it up and how Lisa brought it up and how they were really treated poorly, those two, for even suggesting or making those allegations against Mary. Even though former members of her church said it was a cult, and then they bring that guy Cameron. I forgot Lisa brought that guy Cameron out. That all comes up. They talk about the reaction from the husband in the reunion of season one. They bring all of that up. And you forget some because it's been some time. And the whole thing keeps referring to how Mary Cosby married her step-granddaddy. Yes, I did say it. And yes, we all know it's there. But the initial shock when that kind of hit the news when the show first aired. Yes, guys, she married her step granddaddy. She sure did. And the sister in the documentary, yes, they had her sister. They had family members they interviewed. They had former members of the church they interviewed. There was a lot of people in this, but when they were interviewing the sister and the step granddad of the husband of Mary Cosby, was Robert Sr., that's his name. When the sister said they found out that Robert Sr. was going to propose to Mary, she was like, "Do I still get to call you granddad?" Like, she's like, I like, how does that change? And they had a falling out. She had a falling out with most of her family. The story with the mom was interesting because we always heard Mary's version of the relationship with her mom. So we hear the sister's relationship and what happened there with the mom. How about the whole walkout church ceremony when the mom stood up when Robert Sr. was going to marry Mary Cosby and the mom stood up and said, "This is not it." And how the cops had to be calling and you're like, "Oh my God, I did not know any of this." Yeah, I was sitting there watching, like, 'cause some of it we knew. And then they just kept doing flashbacks from like season 1 and season 2 and how you forgot that she didn't show up for the reunion in season 2 and how she was out for a couple seasons and now she came back and everybody forgot. And the money, the businesses, where does it go? The recordings. It was intense and it really is going to stir up many, many questions. I don't know how this is going to look for you, Mary. It's not going to be good. Just when you came off so strong, you were on a comeback. This one could take you down again. And did she show up to the reunion if they already filmed it? And if they have not, will she show up now that this is aired? The people that they were interviewing were fascinating. And it definitely seems like many of her members believe that she is God. And then they show videos of that woman in the back going, "You're my best friend." And clips from season 1, like, "Oh, yeah, I forgot about a lot of that." And wow, what's going to happen now? And sometimes after some of these documentaries air, docuseries air, and authorities and legal teams watch that stuff. We're like, "Hold on, let me do some research and see if this is an illegal action. Do we need to take action?" So sometimes there can be a little bit of legal fallout following that. So that's my question. Will anything come out of this? So we'll see. But oh, Mary, this is not going to go where. So now, okay, we got Mary. We got her, this whole cult thing resurfacing in this documentary. And it was 3 episodes. So it's not like they just kind of skim over these allegations. Like, they go into it and they talk about the podcast going into it. They kept like re-showing these podcasts going, "She's married a step granddaddy." So funny. But she did. Please tell me a lot of this comes up. Whitney, who would have thought you would have been right? Whitney's like, "I told you so." And you guys gave me shit. And I told you so. I told you so. And Lisa, you're having a tough year. So remember, you're the one that brought him out. Like, I think this might be a cult. Meredith, everybody's having issues with you now. And if they turn on Mary, they might turn on you too. And so now we have Mary, possible cult. Wendy from the Real Housewives of Potomac. She has allegations and charges against her about fraud. Jen Shaw's out. Karen's out. The Real Housewife universe is just madness right now. But I'm going to watch it all. That's for sure. Something's probably going to come out against those women that are on the new Netflix show, 2 members only Palm Beach. Something's going to happen. And I was thinking when I was watching that members only show about the Palm Beach women, I'm like, this is so much like that Apple TV Plus show Palm Royale with Kristen Wiig. I thought that, oh, sure. I'm sure there's an element of truth behind that, but it seems quite extreme. Okay, maybe I was wrong. I didn't realize it was that bad. And that one older lady who's passing the baton and giving her the Rolodex. First of all, do not take Carol Burnett's Rolodex. No. So is that a thing? And the whole cash? And Romina, you are beautiful. Um, Stick to all your businesses that you have been successful at. I don't know that pop singer is your thing. You look cute. You good show. Um, Less auto tune, maybe more auto tune. I don't know. A little shaky on the vocals. But other than that, I did enjoy watching you try to acclimate to this very new, bizarre world. And like I said, I felt for you. So, okay, we're going down through the reality TV world, and it's just getting started. We still have Beverly Hills. So much is happening in reality TV. And it's the beginning of the new year. So we have new shows that are coming. Very exciting. But that is it for us today. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Happy New Year. Please follow Pollywine at Instagram at PollyWineTime. And please listen to Pollywine wherever you get your podcast. Thanks so much and have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.